When you see italics, relax. The Translation Tour, page 2 of 6, the Scaffolding Rule. When you see italics, relax. The word might not be there, but the meaning is. In the introduction, we name the trap. Everyday readers meet slanted words in their Bibles and assume something has gone wrong. Either they treat the italics as emphasis and start punching, a word the authors never meant to stress, or they learn those words weren't in the original Greek and decide the translators smuggled in human commentary. Both reactions come from the same place. They assume English and Greek build thoughts the same way. They don't. This page is only about one print mark on the page. The italics. Not vocabulary roots. Not idioms. Not commas. Just the scaffolding translators raise so a dense Greek thought can stand upright in English without collapsing into gibberish. The slanted text. If you read a Bible that still marks supplied words the traditional way, many editions of the King James, New King James, and a few others, you will eventually hit a sentence that looks almost ordinary, except one word or phrase leans. That slant is not a shout. It is not a highlighter. It is a quiet label that says, this English word is not sitting there as a one-to-one twin of a single Greek dictionary entry. It is part of the frame that makes the Greek sentence readable in English. Two missteps follow almost automatically. The vocal trap. People raise their voice on the italicized word. The verse suddenly gains a theatrical stress that has nothing to do with the Greek word order or the author's point. The formatting was never a stage direction. The suspicion trap. Someone opens a study tool, discovers the italicized word has no separate Greek mate, and concludes the translator added theology. The italics become evidence of tampering instead of evidence of translation. Both traps treat English as if it were a perfect glass window onto Greek. It isn't. English is a rigid set of blocks. Greek is molded clay. When you force clay into a block language, you sometimes have to supply the braces yourself, and then mark them so honest readers can see the joint. Why the text demands a scaffold. English freezes most of its grammar outside the word. Helper words stack up before the action arrives. He could have been running. Greek often bakes actor, number, time, and direction into the body of a single form. One compressed Greek shape can unpack into several English words. If a translator refused every extra English word and printed only strict one-to-one tokens, large stretches of the New Testament would read like broken telegram. The meaning would still be buried in the Greek grammar, but your English ear would never hear it. So the honest translator does two jobs at once. Unpacks the clay into English blocks that actually communicate. Marks the blocks that were forced by English structure, rather than by a separate Greek vocabulary item. Those marks, the italics, are not smuggled commentary. They are the visible footprint of the unpacking. Strip them out in the name of purity, and you do not get a cleaner text. You get a bridge with the planks pulled up. That is the scaffolding rule in one breath. The word might not be there as a freestanding Greek entry, but the meaning is already in the mold. 3 places the frame shows. The examples below use the New King James Version as it appears on common interlinear and parallel sites, including Bible Hub. The point is not NKJV is the only right translation. The point is that a traditional italicizing edition lets you see the scaffold. Once you learn to read the marks, you can carry the same calm into versions that do not italicize at all. You will simply stop treating every English helper word as a theological invention. Case Study 1, Luke chapter 6 verse 16, the relationship. In the NKJV list of apostles you meet a phrase like, Judas the son of James. On a site that preserves the italics, son is slanted. Why? Because the Greek does not set out a separate vocabulary word for son the way English does. It reads, in effect, Judas of James. To an ancient ear, the case ending molded onto the name already signaled a close family link. Greek does not need an extra block. The relationship is baked into the clay. English cannot do that with a bare Judas of James, without sounding incomplete or ambiguous to modern readers. So the translators raise a small frame. Judas the son of James. The italics do not invent a relative. They spell out, for rigid English blocks, what the Greek ending already said without a freestanding noun. If you strike the italicized word to get back to the original, you do not recover purity. You recover an English sentence that no longer carries the relationship the Greek case had already delivered. Case Study 2, Luke chapter 6 verse 29, the mathematical implication. Jesus says, to him who strikes you on the one cheek, offer the other also. In many italicizing editions, one is slanted. The Greek simply has the cheek. There is no separate little block that means one, but the sentence is a contrast. This cheek, the other. Greek can leave the first side of the pair lightly marked. English often needs the physical counterweight in place, or the contrast goes soft. The translators are not inserting a new number into theology. They are spelling out the logic of a human face so English can hold the same contrast Greek already assumes. The maxim again. The freestanding English word is not in the Greek word list, but the meaning is in the structure. The scaffold is how English admits what it cannot mold. Case Study 3, Luke chapter 9 verse 39, the visceral description. A desperate father describes his son's torment. It convulses him so that he foams at the mouth, and it departs from him with great difficulty, bruising him. Look carefully at where the italics fall. Often only at the mouth is marked. A harsh word-for-word scrap of the Greek phrase lands closer to with foam. No separate English-style location phrase is required for an ancient reader who already hears convulsion and foam as one physical event. Leave that phrase strictly telegraphic in modern English. He foams with no landing place, and the picture can go abstract or clinical. The translators anchor the body, foams at the mouth. They are not inventing anatomy. They are finishing the English sentence so the Greek scene still hits the gut. Again, the italics are not a confession of guilt. They are a label on the brace that keeps a fluid Greek image from collapsing into English vagueness. Retraining your eye. Once you see italics this way, the whole page changes posture. You stop using slanted type as a volume knob. You stop treating not in the Greek as a crime scene. You start treating italics as a map of the language gap. Proof that someone worked hard to keep you from reading rubble. Practical habit. When you meet italics in a traditional edition, whisper the maxim before you argue with the verse. Relax. The word might not be there. The meaning is, then read the whole sentence for sense, not for a conspiracy of extra syllables. And if your preferred translation does not use italics at all, keep the rule anyway. Every English Bible still builds scaffolds. Some just refuse to paint them. The scaffolding is still there, in helper verbs, prepositions, and little clarifying nouns, whether or not the printer leans the type.